Hello everyone. How you doing? Okay, let's make sure my audio is working here. I think it's working good, yeah? Yeah, I'm not sure what TFT means. Is that referring to a game? Which game is that referring to, team? Set 5 looks fun. All these new games the whippersnappers are playing these days. Okay, so we need to get going pretty quickly here because we have a lot to do, and we have essentially only two. Oh, Team Flight Tactics, awesome. We only have 2 lectures left, and this is the penultimate one. So we have a couple things we need to do. Today, we need to go through and we need to watch all of your trailer drafts and get you some feedback. We did this in the earlier section from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m., and there's a lot of fantastic feedback that we got posted into the Twitch chat. So if you are wondering about your trailer, please go watch the earlier lecture on Twitch so you can see the Twitch chat. And oh, Ellie has walked into my room. My dog has walked into my room. Here she is. Hey Ellie, what's up? Oh, such a cutie. I'm gonna have to take care of that in just a sec, but make sure that you go back and you watch the earlier section today, at least the trailer part, so you can see the feedback that your trailer received when we showed it, okay? Otherwise, we need to finish up the business lecture today, and then that'll leave our final lecture for Monday, in which we will go and we'll finish up this course, okay? We will do a final lecture. We will watch your final trailers to congratulate all of you, and it'll be a good day, okay? Okay, we got some announcements. Let's go ahead and get that done. Our virtual showcase will happen on Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST. There's no lecture that day, okay? It is the final day of courses, but you're going to be spending enough time that day on 494 stuff. So no lecture that day, okay? It's just the showcase. We have just about 7 days left, all right? That's not a lot of time. But the good news is that your games are very fun. The P3 beta scores were through the roof last night. The games have really taken a huge step in a week. A lot of games received content. A lot of games received balancing and performance optimizations that really made their game finally shine. And so it's really, really impressive stuff. Well done. Please register your game info by Monday, okay? After this weekend, please register for the showcase. Have one person on your team fill out this form. This is how we're going to basically put the showcase website together. You're going to give us a really cool image for your showcase. You're going to write a description that everyone will see, and then you're going to give us the location of your itch.io page, okay? The itch.io page that you're creating, do not make it public. Do not publish it. Keep it in a restricted mode. So that it doesn't get published when there's no game even uploaded. Keep it in restricted mode, and then when the day of the showcase comes, you're going to unleash it. You're going to publish it, make it public, and then we'll have a ton of people play the game. Itch.io will say this game is new and it's very popular because a lot of people from the showcase are playing it, and then maybe you'll get featured on the front page. And that would be really, really good for your team, and a lot of people across the internet would then experience your game. So that's what we're going to do, okay? All right. So evaluations are out. Evaluations are out, and not only are they super, super helpful for helping us iterate the course, helping us get ideas for how to balance the course, how to move things around, how to make it more impactful and a better experience, but it also gets you extra credit, okay? So please fill out your evals and remind your teammates to do so. Make sure your teammates have done so, because every 10% of the course that fills out these evals, everyone gets a lot more points, okay? So make sure that you do that, and it's going to be really, really helpful. Thank you so much for supporting the course. Share the Facebook event, share the LinkedIn event with your friends, family, and even managers. Make sure that people can experience all the hard work that you've done this semester. These games are really coming together, and it's going to be a fantastic day, especially if your friends and family and mentors can experience it with you, okay? A quick challenge as we get going here. Hooke's Law, right? You remember the mathematical physics expression that gives us the ability to make things act like a spring, makes it all juicy, organic. I have a challenge. Can you spot the usage of Hooke's Law in this clip of Sonic Adventure? Let's watch. Did you see it? I'll show it to you again. It is the turret in the background. When it shoots, it would make sense that there's some opposite force, right? That acts on the turret. In this case, you get to see it because when this cannon shoots, the metal part will actually go into and wiggle around inside of the main part, like that. See? So very, very cool stuff. AAA's using Hooke's Law to get really juicy effects for things like projectiles and shooting. Okay? All right, let me just take a quick second to make sure my dog is out of the room. I'll be back in just a sec. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on here. You've got some assignments that were due. Your P3 beta was due, and very well done on those. And your P3 marketing draft was due, and we will get to watching those and giving you feedback rapid fire in just a sec. P3 Gold is your final technical deliverable of EECS 494. It is an interesting deliverable in that, unlike your previous technical deliverables, you tend to not want to make big changes to your game, okay? This is a deliverable that mainly you want to focus on polishing, fixing bugs, and stuff like that. You want to maybe add a little bit of professionalism. As if you don't have scene transitions, you probably want to have something like that. But this week, your main focus is going to be on polishing things up and on creating your itch.io game page, okay? Your itch.io game page is probably going to be the main place that everyone goes to play your game on Showcase Day. And so you want it to look nice. It is the main place that internet goers are going to find your game and choose whether or not to give it a shot. And so you really want this to be a really cool page. We've got some really great references from previous 494 teams and Wolverine Soft Studio teams. Dream Willow, this is an itch.io page that hits you immediately with some pretty beautiful art. You scroll down, you get a little bit of information about what the game is, you get some GIFs, and these are very important. Some GIFs that help your players immediately understand what kind of game this is. Dream Willow is a top-down twin-stick shooter with a really cool art style. Boom, there you go. And as a result, it got a lot of interaction. A lot of people played this game and a lot of people liked it. Let's take a look at Yoked. This is a 494 student game that actually signed a 5-figure publishing deal after they put this game on itch.io. They hit you immediately with a pretty cool logo. They have a GIF. They have images showing you the different parts and aspects of the game, climbing. They have a video, a trailer that is really, really great for helping you understand, what is this game, what do you do in it. And as a result, they got a lot of interaction as well. They have their credits there, very good. And let's go ahead and look at Circuitry. This is another Wolverine Soft Studio product that hits you with beautiful art right away. The background is really cool. It's essentially this art. Well, it's this art right here that's just been taken and stretched a little bit, and it still looks really good. I think it would look good with a blur on it too. You've got information about the game. You've got credits. You have the GIFs that show you what kind of game this is, using different weapons, fighting different kinds of enemies. What you'll want to do is you will want to use a service called easygif.com. And this website is pretty much made for creating GIFs for itch.io. You can upload any video that you have to the service, and it will turn it into a GIF. You can then optimize the GIF, you can compress it, you can shrink it, you can crop it so that it's not as long, so that only the cool part is shown in the GIF. And you can get it underneath the 3 megabyte itch.io limit, file size limit, okay? So that is what I recommend. These pages are very, very important because this is what people will see when they decide to download your game or not. So definitely put some effort in and investment this week. Okay, you'll have the normal dev blogs to do, and that's pretty much going to be it. This is a gold submission, so you do need to upload the game and at least link it on your portfolios, okay? So make sure that your team members do that. Before Monday, a reminder, you need to fill out this registration form for the showcase. And then after, sometime like midday Monday, probably after our final lecture, what we'll do is we will show you what it looks like. We will show you what the showcase page looks like early, and you can see if your game looks okay, if you want to update it, do other stuff like that. Okay, this is something that I guess I'll show you. This is the Student Games Publishing Guide. If you really do like your game, and I know a lot of you do, and if you want to see if it could go further, right? If you can find a publishing deal, if you can get support to launch on different consoles, then what we recommend is following this publishing guide. This was written in collaboration with the former 494 teams that managed to successfully get a 5-figure publishing deal. And so it has a lot of tips, it has resources, it has essentially a checklist of things that you should do, and how you should approach the kind of publisher negotiations. Okay? All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's watch some trailers, okay? So here's how this is going to go. We need to get these trailer creators as much feedback as we can, but we don't have a ton of time for that. So what we'll do is we will watch the trailer together, and then we'll turn off the music. I will start talking about my feedback, and you need to dump your thoughts into the Twitch chat, okay? Don't worry about forming complete sentences. Just as thoughts come into your head, as ideas come into your head, just type them out and slam them right in, okay? And then we will move on pretty quickly. If you want to see your Twitch chat, what you can do is you can return to this video recording on Twitch, come back to this point when your trailer is shown, and you will see the chat fill up with tips for your for how to improve, okay? All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so first up, we have Zero Studio. So here we go.
Lost Soul is the story of a ghost's journey to reclaim his memories of the abandoned house he used to live in. You must use spectral skills to possess and move objects, and explore the abandoned house to discover what your life was like before your tragic fate. Beware, you may not be alone in this house. Avoid the ghost hunter and resolve your cloudy past so that you may finally rest in peace, or forever be a lost and forgotten soul.
All right, there we go. So what are your thoughts, chat? So this is a video that is, the audio, it's really good, right? The audio is balanced a little bit quietly, and it's a little bit hard to hear the background music. I recommend making everything a bit louder, the voice a bit louder, the background music a bit louder, to better give that kind of mysterious horror vibe to the viewers. Another thing is this game spends time showing off the possession mechanic right here, where you're possessing chairs, possessing cups and objects, and it also spends time focusing on the paranormal attacker here. However, it doesn't really spend a lot of time on the topic of puzzles, solving puzzles. The viewer isn't all that likely to come away, I think, from this trailer thinking, this is a house full of puzzles. I need to solve puzzles while dodging the paranormal person, okay? And so I recommend showing off some of your puzzle objects, show off the combination on the wall that you need to play on the piano. Stuff like that will be really, really helpful. Okay. Thank you so much, team. Okay, next up, we have Toasty Lion Studio.
Bookie, wake up! There's no time for sleeping! The evil wizard has returned to steal the secrets of magic from the library. Worst of all, he's turned all sorts of creatures and things to the side. Stop him, Bookie, before it's too late! Using the power of knowledge stored within the magic tomes, cast powerful spells to take down your foes. Or, focus to combine their powers to create even stronger effects. In this action deck builder, no mouse, skull, or dragon can stop Bookie on his path to the top. This is A Grimoire's Tale.
All right. So the first thing, this trailer is really cool. The aesthetic really shines here. However, this intro is a little bit awkward because there's no background music at all. The narrator sounds a little bit antsy and excited as he kind of talks about what is going on with the wizard kind of taking over the library. But the music, there is none. There's no background music, and so it doesn't feel very intense. It feels a little bit awkward. This game is all about stacking effects, right? So you have a bomb, you stack that, and then you throw out a fireball, and that makes the fireball super big, because that's the bomb stack effect. It mentions that, the narrator mentions that, and it shows various effects, but there's so much to look at, it's so distracting, that you probably want to just simplify things. You want to zoom in with the camera and say, stack the bomb with the triple shot. And then you show, 3 shots going out, and they're all huge explosive objects, right? Combine the assault shot with the corrosive shot. And then you show, really simply and zoomed in, a bullet that is causing corrosive damage and goes in 3s. That could be very, very useful. If you need more time for this, you can get that time from the end card, which takes up it feels like around 10 seconds. You probably only need to take up about 2 with that, okay? Make sure that you show off the bosses. I would make sure that you have some camera angles that just include the boss and not include the player, so that you have some camera angle diversity going on. But other than that, this is really, really good. Thank you so much, team. And also, by the way, and this goes for all of your trailers, avoid putting UI into your trailer footage, okay? Your players, unless the UI is really important, UI tends to distract players. That is information that is not important to the trailer watcher. It is important to game players. So get rid of it for the trailers, but make sure it's still in the final game. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. Next up, we have Studio Spades. I would show the part of the game where you can choose your own spells. Yeah, that would be a really good idea. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this trailer.
Beautiful.
We'll restart here.
Stranded. Who would have thought a place so beautiful could be so dangerous? Fight enemies. Collect parts to fix your ship. And go home. But be careful, because if you aren't, you may be stranded here forever. Do you have what it takes?
All right. So this is a really good draft. It has a nice flow to it. One thing that comes to mind immediately is that this game is really the sense of progression that is really important to this game, right? Collecting parts. Your ship is all locked off and damaged. Collect and scavenge parts, and then progressively unlock more parts of your ship and get more abilities. That isn't really in this trailer. The trailer starts off by expressing that you should fight first, and that's not really the most important thing in this game. It should probably show off the interior of the ship, the fact that a lot of things are wrecked, and then go, okay, because of this, you have to go get parts, and because you're out getting parts, you fight, right? That ordering would probably make it flow a lot better and be more easy to understand what this game's core is. If you need more time for some of this stuff, you can get it from this meltdown animation, which takes a very long time. Okay? All right. Thank you very much, team. Well done. Okay. Next up, we have Studio Clubs.
Welcome to Kingsguard, the royal strategy game where you manage resources and command troops in order to kill the assassin before he kills you first. The night is dark and full of enemies. These watchtowers really come in handy. Your scouts are fast, but weak. Good thing your knights pack a punch. The enemy can approach you from this many angles? Who designed this thing? Kingsguard, releasing soon on Mac and Windows.
Okay, so this is a good draft. There is a lot of time at the end here, which you can probably get rid of. The title screen looks extremely basic. It's not a great last impression. There is a lot of dead air time here that isn't really used. If you need more time to show off cool things, you can take it from those locations. This game begins, this trailer begins by showing the viewer a big, like, overhead view. And that's a tough way to begin because the player doesn't know what to look at and everything is super small. They can sort of see that there's some sort of building here and here, but they might not even be able to read the shop icon. What I recommend is that you build some drama by first showing a little clip where some assassins run past and you're zoomed in, right? Some assassins run past. You can have the narrator say something like, "A plot has been uncovered to assassinate the king," right? Only you can stop them by planning your traps, by positioning your soldiers, and by hiring the best help, right? That could be very, very helpful. One issue here is when you're showing something off, you don't want to be zoomed out like this. I have no idea in this clip right here. I'm not sure what you're showing off. We're zoomed out. And even if the narrator talks about an important gameplay mechanic, the viewer of this trailer is not going to know where their eyes should be. Like, where should I be looking to see what the narrator is talking about? What is going on in this clip? So that's what I recommend. Think about how you can get some more unique shots in here. Create some new cameras in your scene. And write maybe some custom code to disable some UI and make things look a bit cleaner. And set up some really cool shots. A lot of effort goes into creating good trailers because it really, really, really matters. So don't be afraid to add a little bit of new logic, some new systems, some new components to get shots that are really going to get your players thinking about the game. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, team. Star Guardians.
Today's local breaking news: our town lake has completely dried up.
The devastating news of the town lake drying up is wrecking everyone's nerves. You, a bowl of water, is on the quest to revive the once beautiful lake. However, you alone isn't enough to solve the issue. Therefore, before you reach the dried up lake, you decided to reunite with other droplets in different houses, forests, and streets. In this puzzle platformer, you will need to maneuver your body to avoid falling onto the contaminated kitchen floor, escaping the deadly sun, and dodging the dirty trash. Make your way to the lake, and be water, my friend.
Okay, so this is a good draft. There are some things we need to change. The frame rate is really, really, really low. It's a very, very choppy footage that we have right here. I have no idea what this footage is being used for. It does not make the gameplay look very good. You're trapped behind something. It looks like the game's glitching out now, and you have a slow-mo explosion. That is not good. This final shot on the street is very, very sluggish as well. I recommend you find someone on your team who has a kind of a beefier machine that can do this recording at a higher frame rate. Or turn down the lighting to get a better frame rate, or see if anyone has a friend with a beefy machine that can record footage of themselves playing through these areas, and then you can use that footage in your trailer. It's also a little bit weird that the narrator says you need to avoid touching the dirty ground, and then we immediately see the puddle totally fine on the dirty, like, on the dirty road. This trailer's biggest issue, however, is not the frame rate or the contradiction here at the end. It's the fact that this game is a puzzle platformer, and its main feature is the fact that you can change to different phases of water. You can be liquid water, you can be solid water in the shape of a ice block, and then you can be evaporated water. And nowhere in this trailer are any of these things pretty much even hinted at. So this trailer desperately needs to have some footage and the narrator show that you can become an ice block. And because you're an ice block, you can get past obstacles, right? And you don't lose any water as you move around. And the fact that you can become an evaporated piece of water, and because of that, you can fly around, and then you can condensate and become water again, right? This is really, really important stuff. Otherwise, your game's going to end up looking to viewers like Rollerball with different aesthetics. And that's not the case. These levels are pretty interesting to progress through, so we need to make sure that comes through in the video. Okay, thank you very much, team. Next up, we have Smooth Monk Brain Studios.
The Wild West Frontier, a place filled with hostile terrain, ravenous wildlife, and ruthless bandits. All the mailmen have all been chased out of town. It's up to you to deliver all them packages. The only question is, do you have what it takes? Navigate dangerous terrain across a variety of levels. Use your delivery training to solve puzzles and deliver packages. Uncover the truth behind the bandit operations in the ultimate Wild West delivery game, Fells Wargo.
All right, so this is a good draft, a really good draft. There are a couple things that I think are missing. One, I think the really cool "Mail's Here" sound effect from the game is not in this trailer, and it probably should be somewhere. When the narrator talks about the fact that there are a lot of packages to deliver, it would really help to show those packages, right? Or show the mailboxes. That could be very, very helpful, help the player understand what they're trying to do. I don't think the narrator talked that much about throwing, like the actual individual game mechanics themselves. Aim your packages, throw them. They do show them, but it does help to explicitly say it sometimes. Use the packages to solve puzzles. Otherwise, this is a really nice trailer. I think that it's a shame that the in-game character, when you play this game, there's a character with a little bit of different voice acting that is really, really great and easy to understand and well characterized. It's a shame that that voice actor wasn't involved in this trailer at all. I think it could help out a lot. Okay, well done, team. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Pentacle. Okay, all right. This trailer has some problems. There are a lot of things that need to change. One of them is that it's just missing a requirement. You need a voiceover, and I hope watching this trailer makes it clear why. This trailer uses text instead of voiceover, and as a result, viewers will often find themselves reading text only for the trailer to decide, time's up, text is gone, now you have new text to read. And that is extremely unsatisfying and difficult on the eyes when that happens. And so what you need to do, dev team, is you need to go into this trailer, you need to go into the game, and you need to re-record footage that doesn't have text. Here's what I mean. Take the cutscenes, these beautiful cutscene slides of the witch with her grandma, and get rid of the text. Turn the text boxes off, make them invisible, and record that footage. Then you have a narrator talk and explain what's going on. One day in a deep, dark woods, a young witch and her grandma have a problem, right? Birthday is coming up, and she must now brave the perils of the forest to get her grandma a good birthday gift. Dodge the spikes. Use spells to manipulate your environment and plan a path through. Use the grappling hook ability to swing through dangerous areas and rescue your grandma's 500th birthday. Something like that. If you find a voice actor, it could be extremely professional. It might even sound like a witch. If any of you are missing voice actors and want to improve your narration, your voiceover quality, go to the Voice Acting Club forums. Go to the Voice Acting Club Discord. It's a quick turnaround, but there are people who will get back to you and can make it happen for free. So I would start today. Go there, get some narration, and you'll have just about enough time to get it in. Okay? Otherwise, I don't think this trailer really talks about or emphasizes its cooler puzzles. This video footage all seems to be from the first area, and the only footage we ever see is gameplay footage. There are no new cameras set up to get a really nice zoomed-in shot. It just feels like a kind of a very samey trailer because there's no camera angle diversity at all. But, you know, it's a draft, right? So you'll get it done. I know you will, team. Thank you very much. Okay, so next up we have Potato Studio.
Journal entry number 37. Yesterday, I received a request from an informant asking me to look into the situation regarding a factory that shut down 2 years ago. Initial investigation suggests that the factory was rented out to a startup of 11 employees that all went missing, including the leading research engineer, Dr. Chen. According to my informant, the team successfully developed a Polaroid that is capable of teleporting its users and resetting objects in the photos and text. My hunch tells me that there is a bigger story to investigate here. I'm gonna check out this factory today. Wish me luck.
This is a bit of a rough trailer, team. We'll go ahead and play it again. This trailer the audio levels are really imbalanced. It's very hard to hear anything. It's hard to hear the background music. It's difficult to hear the voice, the narration. The trailer also spends, I think, the first 20 seconds showing us nothing. We get to see the inside of this building, but we don't get to see anything interesting in it. We don't get to see the cool posters on the wall that show you that there's a new Polaroid product here. We don't get to see the actual camera itself sitting on the desk. We don't get to see any puzzles. And so the trailer itself doesn't do a very good job of selling its main mechanic. This trailer ideally should spend a lot of time showing off the puzzles. It should show off not only the kind of warping mechanic, but it should also show off the reverse time mechanic. It should also probably show off the fact that these notes are in the game, and there's kind of a Portal-esque, a sinister story in the background of this game. That could be done by just flipping the page and showing the note that's bloody on the back, right? Or showing the little door jam that says "mine" in the background through the jam. So I recommend you look back at this trailer and see if you can restructure it, team. This is a very, very cool game, but this trailer really doesn't sell it as well as it could, okay? Okay, thank you very much, team. Okay, Mushroom Studios. The narration also didn't really sound much like a serious investigative journalist.
Welcome to Mogu, a puzzle platformer about flipping and turning. As you bend gravity, the puzzles will bend your mind. Explore a vast world.
Fantastic job, team. This is an excellent draft and would be an excellent final trailer as well. If you're watching this trailer and you feel like it just has a cohesiveness to it, it has a sense of timing and diversity to it, it is because this trailer uses a lot of different camera angles. Sometimes you are following and showing the gameplay footage, but you only ever show things as you explain them, right? The most important thing here is probably this at the very beginning. Listen to this.
A puzzle platformer about flipping and turning.
Right? A puzzle platformer about flipping, and then you show a zoomed in flip and turning, and then you show a zoomed in turn. And at that point, the audience is almost certain to understand the core of the game and what's going on. Brilliant move to put it that early and to zoom in and make sure nothing else is distracting the player. At the very, very end here, one of the reasons this feels so cohesive is that the audio, right? The action that we see is timed to the audio.
Explore a vast world.
And then at the very end, the why, right? The reason that players are going to come play this is when they see that, wow, there's this huge interconnected world that has all these puzzles just waiting for you to explore. That is a really, really exciting idea. It feels like there's a sense of scope. And then right at the end here, boom, right? Using the main mechanic to fix the logo as the last big note of the song is played is an element of professional timing that is very rare in student trailers. And so that's why this trailer feels so excellent. Well done, team. I don't have a whole lot to suggest, aside from there are certain moments in this trailer where the game looks very basic, and the reason is because of this background. There's not any shading to the background. There's not anything going on in it. It gives me some Microsoft Paint vibes. So if there were any clouds, if there was any parallax, it doesn't need to be distracting things, but just anything I think would help a lot. Okay, thank you, team. Next up, we have Michigan Association for Zigzagging Environments.
I understand, but no one has heard anything from the agents down there. We have to send them into the maze.
So, you dare enter my maze? I assure you, your spells and training won't help you here. You'll go mad just trying to find your way out. That is, if my creatures don't cut you down first.
Very cool. Well done, team. This is a very good draft. This game, this trailer is very strong in the characterization department. Hearing the agent who's serious, right, and kind of concerned at the beginning, and then hearing the villain who goes out, laughing, is really, really great. It gets you engaged in the trailer. The only thing I would suggest is that the game does not do this trailer does not do an amazing job at kind of expressing the game's mechanics. I'll give you an example. This game has puzzle solving is a big part of this game. And I think that's what you're trying to say here with this investigate section. However, this isn't really a puzzle at all. It is just, hey, there's a key, grab it, right? This does not give one the impression that there are puzzles and secrets hidden around here. And the voiceover doesn't necessarily say that either. The voiceover kind of fails us here as well when we're talking about attacking. These attacks are all a little bit different. They have their own unique abilities. The purple attack is really good for puzzles. The red attack, I think, is the best offensive weapon, and the ice attack here is one that slows enemies down, a bit defensive. But the narrator, all the narrator says is your spells won't help you here. In reality, what we'd probably prefer is something that says choose your spells wisely, right? Because they're different. You've got one for solving puzzles, one for attacking, and one for defense. Something like that. The only other thing I would say is, as the first narrator says, we can't send people down into the maze. We have to send people into the maze. It'd be really helpful if your first look at the maze is not this kind of tiny, kind of dark view of one part of it, but instead like kind of like a flyover, right? So you can look at this huge maze that they were talking about. This thing is truly massive. You want to impress people the first time they see the maze, and putting players right into it right away probably won't do that. At least not right away, okay? Thank you very much, team. Well done. Okay, so next up we have the Lucky Clover games. Thank you for the Twitch comment, the Twitch chat comments, everyone. You're giving good feedback.
Motor
framed for stealing a powerful secret weapon, you, a motorcycle vigilante, set off on a quest to defeat the evil Agent Smith and clear your name. Bike and blast your way through Agent Smith's defenses, including enemy motorcycles, tanks, and auto turrets. Collect scrap from destroyed enemies to make repairs and craft ammo so you can keep taking on the forces of evil. This quest will take all the good old-fashioned grit you can muster. Will you rain fire and win the fight for justice, or meet the fate of an outlaw? Take the quest.
All right. So there are two different announcers used in this footage, in this trailer, and they have different recording equipment. As a result, the first one is a little bit clear and kind of easy to follow when MotorQuest is said, but the second one comes on a little bit too quickly after the first one, and it seems a little bit more compressed. If you can find someone on the Voice Acting Club forums who can give like a, have professional equipment for recording, that have professional microphones, then that would probably improve the audio quality a great deal, okay? And the perception of the trailer. This trailer is really cool, but it has a problem that many other trailers have, in which there's a lack of diversity in the footage, in the camera angles. So all of this game's footage is from behind, normal gameplay. It is from behind the player. It is exactly what the player will see when they play the game. And what I recommend is set up some cameras in your environment and then use those to capture some footage of a side view when your character goes over a ramp or something. That could be really, really, really impactful and help this footage feel much more diverse. The last Motor Quest is it's kind of quiet, kind of hard to hear. Okay. Otherwise, it's a really, really cool trailer. Okay. Thank you very much, team. Okay, next up, we have Heads Up Studios. Yeah, I'd also remove the UI from the previous trailer. Remove the UI during some of the footage recording. It'll just less things to distract. The footage will look a lot more appealing. Okay, we've got Heads Up Studios.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
Polly. The last cat on planet Hexon has been taken. Young witch, your time has come. Traverse unknown environments, dodge the Ice Master's minions, and solve puzzles using your magical prowess. But be warned, magical elements are scarce, and one must be strategic if they are to defeat the Ice Master. You must save Polly, for if you fail...
All right. So this trailer is a really good draft, but it's got some things we definitely need to improve. One is that the trailer footage, a lot of it is very, very low frame rate and has artifacts. Like at the top, it's very easy to see. It looks like the Unity editor this was recorded in at the very top. And so, yeah, we gotta fix that up. If you're having trouble getting good high frame rate footage recorded, see if you can find a friend who you can send an executable to and ask for them to record the OBS full screen for, and then you can use that footage. This game needs to have a camera angle changed. So during this little rotation, the viewer gets to see things that should not be seen. And so you should fix that angle, okay? Should be pretty easy. You know what I'm talking about. This intro is really interesting, and that's really creepy, right? Here, kitty, kitty, right? The villain's saying that. It's really cool, and it's engaging, but the background music is really, it clashes with it. Listen to this.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
So if you were listening, you could hear some... essentially, there's like elevator music. There's pleasant, calming music in the background, and this voice is really intimidating and it's spooky, and kind of anxious. And so you really probably want to use some anxious music in the background as this trailer starts to reinforce the idea that this is the bad guy and not the good guy. Okay. Another big issue with this trailer is that it never introduces the actual spells. There are 4 spells, and they're all very different. And so the way you'd want to break this down is you'd want to zoom in and show one spell at a time, okay? And only show that. Do not show us UI elements that the viewer doesn't care about. Do not show us other enemies. Do not show us things that's going to distract us. Set up a camera in the environment, in the scene, and then record someone using the thunder spell. And when they use the thunder spell, you show that footage and you have the narrator say something like, use the thunder spell to keep enemies off your back, as you show an enemy like getting knocked back away from the player. Use the fire spell to get blockades out of the way, to burn down blockades. And you show just like the player burning down a box or melting some ice. The problem with this footage is that there's so much going on. The viewer has no idea what they're supposed to pay attention to, and they have no idea what the narrator's talking about when they say things. So make sure that you set up some of your own cameras in these scenes so that you can just record footage of the tiny things you want to talk about. Look at this. Like, the narrator might be talking about the fire spell, but here we have a health potion. The user doesn't know what that is, so it's going to confuse them. We've got enemies here. We've got multiple different kinds of enemies. We've got a portal. We've got all these things to look at. Ideally, we just zoom in and only show the thing you want the player to think about, okay? At the end, you should show these more complex puzzles. You should have the zoomed out camera that really helps the player understand how things are going to escalate. Also, when this villain says, "Here, kitty, kitty," that can mean different things. You want the audience to know immediately that he's talking about an actual cat that has been, like, kidnapped, okay? As it turns out, this entire game is about rescuing the cat, but the cat is not actually shown until the very final scene, and it's not even the focus. This cat is what you should show, like, right away after saying, "Here, kitty, kitty, bwahaha." You show the cat in a cage, meow, now we all want to save the cat. Then you can introduce the witch who's using the 4 spells to get past the obstacles to rescue the cat, okay? That is the structure you should probably have, because "here, kitty, kitty" can mean different things in different contexts, we don't want to do things that are too creepy. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, team. Okay, heads up. So Fi Start. Okay, Fi Start is our next trailer. Here we go.
Hello, Agent. You have a new contract. The target? The casino manager. Reach the hidden meeting room and eliminate him. As usual, watch out for guards and dogs. Hide. Attacked. Distract. Think twice to move when it's your turn. Make every action count. Contracts.
Okay, so this is a really good draft, but it has a lot of the problems that many of our other trailers have. This is super distracting. The narrator might say hide, right? But you know the viewer doesn't really know where to look, right? They might be looking over here because any text is going to grab the reader's attention right away. Why is this text here? Why are these UI elements here? They don't need to be. Why are we showing stuff in this other room? Why are we showing this guy over here? When what we really care about is this small area. So here's what I recommend. Set up some cameras in your scene in this area, and then use those to record your footage and turn off your UI elements. You should be able to kind of uncheck the canvas box to turn those off while you record. And as a result, the viewer will actually know where to look. If you want to see a really profound example about how this is a problem, this footage is structurally excellent, right? You tell the player that they can use weapons to attack, right? And then you show that they can use weapons to attack, right? You show them doing it. However, players aren't gonna get much value from this footage because there's so much going on this image that you might not even be able to see your player attacking. The reason you might not be able to see this is because your player is not centered in the footage, right? So the camera doesn't even seem to think the important area is over here in the bottom right. The player is translucent and blocked by a translucent door. So like it's going to be a miracle if players are looking down here before the enemy dies, and they're going to think, wait, what happened? Why did the enemy just explode? So again, set up cameras, only show the thing that you need to be showing at that point. Do not let your audience get distracted by other stuff. Other than that, this trailer and game have a lot of style. I recommend that you bump up the audio. So the voiceover is really quiet, and it's hard to understand what they're saying. The delivery of these vocal lines is also very awkward at times. There are weird breaks in the speech that don't make a whole lot of sense. Because remember, the character that's speaking right now is like the agent, someone who's helping an agent infiltrate. You know, if you watch spy movies, usually they have a really smooth voice. They're a little bit sinister themselves. Agent, I bet you should get in there and use that coin to get the guard out of the way, right? I messed that up, that delivery, but I mean, when you've got it written down, you shouldn't mess that delivery up, okay? So I recommend getting, re-recording those lines or getting another voice actor, okay? Okay, thank you very much, team. Can't wait to see how you spruce that up. Next up, we have Best Effort Games.
Jump into action-packed beat-em-up style game Il Noxi and defeat your foes before they have a chance to fight back. With a wide range of attacks to choose from, you must devise and discover different combos to destroy your opponents. Progress through various levels and come out victorious in the gladiator arena. As a trapped fighter forced into combat, you must claw your way out of the Colosseum to earn your freedom. Build up combos to unlock special abilities and use them to juggle your opponents back to the Roman Empire. Put an end to the reign of Rob the Durable and become a free robot once again.
So I personally, this is not a bad draft trailer. I personally think this ending shot, where the character brings in the title screen, is what you should start with, right? This is a very, very cool little shot. I also recommend that when the footage starts, you start with the plot, right? The first thing you show is a person looking out into a Colosseum through some Colosseum doors. You should probably say immediately, confirm your viewer's belief. You've been trapped. You are an athlete trapped in a Colosseum. You must now fight your way out by using a wide variety of moves. And when in this game, in this trailer, one of its biggest issues is that it says that you have a wide variety of moves, but it doesn't explicitly outline what they are and what they're good for. So the narrator says, I think right in here, that you can use a lot of moves to keep a combo going. But it doesn't really tell you, it doesn't show you and zoom in on the uppercut. It should show you an uppercut and really explain kind of why that is useful. Zoom in, show an uppercut happening, maybe even in slow-mo. Say, use the uppercut to strand your opponents helpless in the air. And then you show them jumping up and doing aerial jabs, right? Combo your enemies in the air for massive risk-free damage. Use the slide kick to get past enemies with long armaments. Use the dash to quickly get to ranged enemies, right? That is the kind of thing that shows you each mechanic and how they're useful, right, individually. Then you can show off a combo that uses them all and amaze the audience and think, wow, I can't wait to link all these things together and figure out what combination of moves does what. You also never show off your coolest attack, which is the grip, the scorpion chain that brings people to you for additional punishment. So I recommend you show that off. This trailer has issues that a lot of the other trailers have, whereas there's no diversity in cameras and angles. You only get to ever see, fairly zoomed out standard gameplay shots. And that's a shame. The trailer will feel a lot more energetic if you can get some of those other recordings in. Okay? All right, team. Thank you very much. Okay, we have our final trailer, 3 AM Studios.
My friend. Altana. My friends. My family. And my home. You took everything from me. And so I'll take everything from you. I'll brave the fallout. Travel the waste. Break your men. Every single one. Until I find you.
Okay, awesome. Right away, this ending shot is very cool. This is kind of mysterious. It's a little bit hard to see here what this is, but it does kind of hook the player a little bit at the end and make them, they have to play to find out who that is. One thing I point out is the very first line we hear from this voice actor is Altana, in a kind of a very neutral tone.
Altana.
Altana. And then we immediately get a switch to a very kind of dark and brooding and edgy tone.
My friends. My family.
Right? And that contrast is a little bit tough. It's a little bit weird. This title card is also not very good. We have things that should not be there, like the menu, right? You can just see it right there. We also have multiple different fonts in use, and that doesn't look all that great. It's also a little bit hard to see the white text across the white background. It's not a big deal, though. The narration is all about plot, and it really doesn't explain the game mechanics at all. One of the things that makes this game unique among 2D action platformers is the fact that you're constantly losing health, and you get health by doing damage. That is extremely unique, and there's basically nothing in the trailer that points to this or even hints at this. The narrator says, "I will brave the fallout." But okay, what does that mean, right? Is the fallout constantly damaging you? It's not really said, and there's never any focus put on the health bar to get viewers to notice this. There's never any real emphasis on the fact that when you hit enemies, life flies out of them, and so I would focus on, okay, how can we maybe remove a little bit of the narrative aspect of this? There's some at the beginning that's very useful, but we need to get to the gameplay mechanics, and we need to make those very clear. Otherwise, people just see it as an edgy, very generic action platformer. I also recommend that you find a way to include the nuclear fallout, the nuclear explosion that happens in level 2, as that's a pretty cinematic moment. Also, when you're doing trailer footage, don't put the text here, okay? Don't let the text show up when you're recording footage, because this text is meant for players and not for viewers of the trailer. So when the trailer viewer sees this text, they will think, "Oh, I'm supposed to read this, right? Text is for reading." But then it immediately goes away.
You took everything from me.
Right? It goes away way too fast, and they're going to feel really frustrated that they weren't able to read this. Anyway, okay. Well done, team. Thank you very much. Okay. I think that's about it. It's about time for our break. We're going to take about 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back. We're going to finish off our lecture on games and business. We're going to talk about ecosystems. We're going to go from printers to your iPhone/smartphone to games and value chains. Okay? So we will see you then. I'll turn on some music here. Let's go with Pumpkin Hill.
You know me, the fighting freak Knuckles, and we're at Pumpkin Hill. You ready? I ain't gonna let it get to me. I'm just gonna creep down in Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here. I can sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my head, cause I have no fear. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. Our ghosts try to approach me and got leery. Ask him a question and he vanished in a second. I'm walking through valleys, crying pumpkin in the alley. Didn't seem happy, but they sure tried to get me. Had to back him up with a fist metal crackle. I'm hearing someone saying, "You a chicken, don't be scared." It had to be the wind, cause nobody wasn't there. I searched and I searched as I climbed up the wall. And then I started to fly, I went in deeper. Let it get to me, I'm just gonna creep down Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I gotta hold my head, just gonna creep. Down in Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I can sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my head, cause I have no fear. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. Our ghosts try to approach me and got leery. Ask him a question and he vanished in a second. I'm walking through valleys, crying pumpkins in the alley. Didn't seem happy, but they sure tried to get me. Had to back them up with a fist metal crackle. I'm hearing someone saying, you a chicken, don't be scared. It had to be the wind, cause nobody wasn't there. I searched and I searched as I climbed up the wall. And then I started to fly, I went in deeper. Let it get to me, I'm just gonna creep. Down Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I gotta hold my head, I have no fear. It probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. A ghost try to approach me, he got leery. Spooky up in here, it's crazy in here. We still gon' keep it going, I'm Knuckles. Nobody scares me. Whoever want it, bring it. I don't care, we can do this. Then come step up to the plate and meet your match. It ain't no thing.
Okay, alright, so I hope you can hear me. Okay, we are back. Okay, is the trailer still okay? Let me check real quick. And then we will move on and we will finish up this lecture with a continuation of the Games and Business lecture. This is one of my favorite lectures. You know, I run a startup. I'm very fascinated by how big teams and companies and corporations work and what they care about and why they make certain decisions. Okay. I'm not sure. My Mac right here is having trouble connecting. So let me verify the stream is working real quick via my phone. We'll go to Twitch. We'll, okay, live. I think we're good. Yep, I think we're good. Okay, awesome. All right, so last time, yep, we can see chat now. So last time we ended with our Epson printer, and we had discussed how the printer isn't just one product. It's actually an ecosystem of products and services. This printer, and to the dismay of many, right, this printer is actually extremely cheap. And the reason it can be cheap is because the ecosystem has other things in it, including ink, okay? Our ecosystem map was a tool that we can use to kind of understand products and companies and what they care about and how they exchange value with their users. Here's an example. When it comes to this one printer, there's the hardware that you buy for about 99 bucks, but the big thing is, of course, the ink. And not because, it's a lot of money, but because it's a lot of recurring money, okay? The hardware is a one-time cost. However, this ink is a recurring, every 3 months, the user is going to be trading in $30 to $60 to keep their printer going, okay? Now, this is, in my opinion, a pretty abusive ecosystem. We'll see ecosystems in just a sec that are a lot better at legitimately giving value to users and making them happy, and the users giving money that they're happy to give to keep the ecosystem going. So let's go ahead. I want to talk about your phones, okay? Your smartphone, in particular the iPhone, but maybe you have a Google phone. Maybe you have a OnePlus like I do. Maybe you have a Huawei. Maybe you have something else, okay? These phones are some of the biggest devices in our lives, and they have so the people who make them are some of the biggest companies on the planet. One of the reasons for this is that these phones represent incredible ecosystems. Think for a moment about all the different ways that you and Apple trade money for some sort of value or service, aside from just buying the hardware, okay? If we think about the iPhone 8, yes, there's a hardware transaction. It only happens once, okay? And at the time I created these slides, it was like 820 bucks. That's a lot of change. But that's not it, okay? That's not the end of it. If you think about it, an ecosystem like this also has, what about iCloud, right? iCloud, it's only $1 a month, right? For you to get, I think, like 50 gigabytes of storage for your photos, your files, to make storage less of a problem on your device. That might sound like not very much, $1 per month, but that is $1 per month per user, okay? And when you've got 1 billion plus users like Apple does, that is a significant amount of recurring revenue, okay? You can actually look up, Apple's a public company, an American public company, and so you can look up a bunch of these numbers via their SEC quarterly filings. Yeah, they make a lot of value from these different parts of the chain. What about the App Store? Did you think of that? The App Store is a really interesting place where a lot of other software companies publish their own software. They work hard to create awesome apps for this ecosystem, and Apple takes a 30% cut of that. That actually changed recently. You can now apply, and if you're a small company, you can have that 30% taken down to 15%. This is a big result of the Epic antitrust case that they're currently litigating. But anyway, yeah, so the App Store, right? That's a big chunk of change. 21 billion, I think that was just in the quarter. So Apple Music is another one. It is a service that allows you to listen to a bunch of music. I think it's kind of similar to Spotify. And it has 11 million users. At $10 per month, that is a significant amount as well. There's also Apple stickers. This one's a bit different than the previous ones, right? You're not really trading money here, but you are buying a phone and Apple is giving you some stickers, right? Which you then put on your laptop, you then put on your phone, you put on your car, and Apple is getting implicit advertising that way. You have joined the Apple Club, and now you are showing off how cool it is to be in that club to everyone else. And so they get value that way. Important part of their ecosystem. What about the Apple Developer Program? $99 annually. If you want the chance to publish apps for Apple devices, you need to be in it. You might have dreams of releasing that viral app, the next big thing, but you're not going to make those come true unless you pay 99 bucks per year. iPhone, Apple Watch, right? You might have an iPhone, and because you have an iPhone, that makes certain other products seem like maybe make a little bit more sense to you, right? Once you have an iPhone, an Apple Watch makes a lot of sense. An Apple Watch is its own device, and a fairly expensive one. I think it also comes with its very own app store as well. So one ecosystem is connecting and supporting another. You've got an iPhone and you've got an Apple Watch. You know what goes really good with those two things? How about a Mac? All right, you've got a Mac now, or you've got a MacBook. And so you've got another expensive hardware item, and the Mac has its own app store, and its own developer program, and its own ecosystem. So you can see, right, Apple, what many say is one of the biggest companies in the world, most valuable companies in the world. They are that way not just because they make great products, but they're very, very good at making their products work together as part of an ecosystem. Okay? Once you have one Apple product, as a consumer, you just kind of want to have others. It makes sense. In some ways, this is a bit abusive. For instance, if you have an iPhone, when you go to Best Buy to buy a replacement charger, that's going to run you like $60. And if you had any other phone, it might run you like 10, right? So it is not always super good faith here. But hey, Apple's very good at putting these ecosystems together, for better or worse. You can, again, learn a lot of this stuff by just reading the SEC reports that Apple publishes every quarter, okay? Yeah, $1 trillion, right? Apple's one of the biggest companies than the on the entire planet. And it's amazing, right? It's amazing how these ecosystems have taken over and really lifted them up, because it wasn't that long ago, just a few decades ago, that Apple was essentially bankrupt. They needed a bailout from Microsoft to keep the lights on. It's a very interesting story in itself. Why would Microsoft support and keep alive one of their biggest competitors? And the answer comes down to antitrust. Microsoft would much rather have a struggling competitor live and survive than to have a competitor die, be alone in their industry, and then have the government break them up. So anyway, kind of interesting story. Let's talk about video games, okay? In the context of video games, what do ecosystem maps mean? Well, if you went back to the late 90s and you looked at Blizzard, they're a very different company now, but back then they released games kind of like StarCraft, the original StarCraft. And this is essentially how the ecosystem for them worked. You had a game, and that game came with a disc that you bought. You bought a game disc for $50 to $60, which was a lot of money in that time. Gaming is a very expensive hobby. Only recently has it become more accessible. We'll talk about that in a bit. But you buy the game disc, you enjoy the game, right? There's a little bit of implicit advertising because this particular game is multiplayer. And if you've got 10 people who buy the game and like it and they want to play multiplayer, they're going to advertise for you. They're going to advertise that game to their friends, and there you go. So that's part of the ecosystem, being a multiplayer game. In a couple of years after the game releases, you might get an expansion pack. This is the development team trying to add additional content, add a new story, a new campaign, some new multiplayer features, and that's usually going to run you a little bit less than the base game. And this was essentially their entire ecosystem. That's it. Extremely simple. From a consumer perspective, you look at this ecosystem and you say, wow, this is great. I pay for what I want, and once I pay for the game, I get exactly the entire game, and I can enjoy it as much as I want. I can play it as long as I want. I can get everything in it. I can do whatever I want. I can mod it. It's really cool, right? However, this is not necessarily a good thing for developers. And the reason is this. Back in the 90s, the 80s, 90s, game development was particularly dangerous to be in as a career, okay? Particularly dangerous to run a studio. It's a lot better now. It's still a little bit risky, but the reason was this. If you spent 2 to 3 years to make a big game like StarCraft with a team of 30 to 40 people, like that is not cheap. You're spending millions and millions of dollars, probably per quarter, to make that happen. And then, after 2 years of work, you put your game out on the marketplace, and I hope it's sold, right? If your game flops, and many, many, many games do, then you are in humongous trouble. There's nothing you can really do. You can sit there and you can't really make an expansion pack for a dead game, right? You can go and you can rush and race and hope you survive the 2 or so years it'll take to get your next game out. But there's a very good chance that you're going bankrupt. Your studio's closing, and a lot of very hardworking people are having their lives disrupted immensely, right? People who might be trying to start a family or put kids through college. So as nice as this simple, small ecosystem approach was for consumers, for the developers, it really wasn't great, okay? Now let's fast forward, okay? The same company, different product. This is Overwatch, not in 1998, but in 2016, okay? And what's interesting is that despite inflation, the base game has actually gotten cheaper, okay? Games used to be $50 to $60, and Overwatch releases for $40, okay? So more accessible, more people are going to play it. However, you don't just launch the game, you don't just play the game. Whenever you go to play the game, something happens. Battle.net, okay? Battle.net is a piece of software that launches the game. So you go to play Overwatch. In order to play Overwatch, you launch Battle.net. It's kind of like Steam in that way. And every time you open Battle.net, you don't just see the games that you've purchased. You see all the other games that Blizzard has made, right? So you might be going to play Overwatch, but when you open Battle.net, you're going to see, ooh, Diablo looks pretty cool, right? Oh, maybe that should be my next purchase. Oh, I've heard really good things about StarCraft 2. My friends are playing that. Maybe I could spring for that one, right? It's really, really valuable, right? You get to a lot more advertising by doing that. And so this is why just about every big company these days seems to have their own launcher. Even Stardock, a kind of medium-sized team, 50-60 in Plymouth, has their own launcher for this purpose. Okay, there are other things too, right? When you're not playing Overwatch, there's a good chance you're browsing social media, or maybe you're watching a movie. You might stumble upon the comic books. Overwatch and many game series have their own books, their own comic books, to let you kind of immerse yourself deeper into the game's lore and universe. Maybe you love this game and its universe so much, you'd like to spend more time with it. Well, the company makes that possible by putting out this kind of peripheral media. Hey, did you hear the new Overwatch character just came out, right? And there's a beautiful new trailer. You know how good Blizzard is at trailers. Why don't we get a few friends together to watch the trailer? Maybe record and post a reaction video to the YouTubes. I heard people like that. Right? There are a lot of other things surrounding this game that can help people engage with the ecosystem. There's social media integration. If you pull off a really cool maneuver in Overwatch and record it, you can post that video to Twitch or Itch or Twitter or some other place, Instagram, and the Overwatch account might retweet you, which might mean you get a ton of followers, which might mean that you're a popular kid now and you can get a lot of internet points. But you're doing implicit advertising for them, right? There are timed events. So maybe you played Overwatch for a little while but stopped. Well, now the Olympics are here, right? And you have a bunch of costumes you can earn, but only for a limited time. You'd better play the game. And if you run out of time, you'd better buy some microtransactions to make it happen, right? Maybe it's Halloween and there's a special game mode that's only going to be available for a few weeks. So you'd better get back in and start talking about it and playing. And then, of course, there are the endless loot crates. Loot crates. Say that fast. One of the interesting things about loot crates, right? Overwatch as a game is structured, its progression, right? Its unlockables are structured around you playing the game a lot and then earning loot crates that you then open up. Those crates have a random item, just like Pokemon cards. And if you don't get what you want, well, you can either keep playing the game for an even longer amount of time now to get the next crate, or you can spend a tiny amount of money to get a ton of unlockables right away. One of the interesting things here is that this ecosystem is kind of flexible. Not everyone's going to be able to afford, big $40 purchases all the time. But, when little Timmy's birthday is coming up, yeah, the parents might be able to spring for a few loot crates, right? $2, $5, not a big deal, right? For many households at least. And so this ecosystem provides a lot of different ways for players to experience the game and to trade value with Blizzard. Now compare this to StarCraft, okay? If your game flops, if your game disc flops, then you have no way that you can do anything, right? As a company, you're in big trouble. However, if Overwatch were to flop, Well, there's still hope for Blizzard, right? Because people are still going to be playing and seeing these other games. Players who do love this game, even if there aren't a ton of them, might be able to keep it running by investing a lot. Maybe they buy all the content, they're really into it, right? Maybe the game is initially a flop, but a really cool timed event like the Olympics comes along, and as a result, a big batch of people flock back to it, right? So these ecosystems, or maybe a trailer comes out, or a cool new comic book issue. All of this really, really lessens the risk for game developers and publishers. It's a bit confusing, and in many ways it's really unfortunate for the consumers, right? Because you buy a game now, but buying a game these days doesn't mean that you're buying the entire thing. And that's really frustrating. However, for developers, it means that there's a lot less risk. Companies can be more sustainable, and hopefully, people aren't losing their jobs as often as they used to be. Okay. So anyway, this is the power of ecosystem maps. Another interesting thing is that developers actually used to be disposable. So a development studio would make a game, and if they went bankrupt right after the game's finished, who really cares? The publisher doesn't care, right? The game's finished. Their relationship doesn't need to necessarily continue. But these days, the fact that so many publishers are going after these ecosystem approaches, if you launch a game and then your developer who made the game dies, that sinks your entire ecosystem, right? Games as a service has changed the developer-publisher dynamic. In the past, publishers could force harsh deals on developers. Once the game was finished, who cares if the development studio even survived? But these days, if your development team doesn't survive, you are in trouble because your entire investment, all of the ecosystem stuff, the comic books, the movies, the trailers are all gone if your developer can't survive long enough to keep the game running, okay? So anyway, when it comes to loot boxes and ecosystems, last week I showed you this slide, okay? I showed you these games on the left, which have microtransactions, these games on the right, which do not. On the left, we have third-party publishers who do not make consoles. On the right, we have first-party publishers who do make consoles, okay? So why would the games on the left have microtransactions and the games on the right tend to not? The reason is this. On the right, these game developers already have a healthy ecosystem, right? They don't need to have microtransactions. All they need to do is get people to buy the console, right? They make games so that you will buy their console so that other third parties will make games for the console and they get to collect all those licensing fees. They have a healthy and productive ecosystem ready to go. A third-party studio like Activision, EA, Warner Brothers, they do not have a console. They do not have a healthy ecosystem unless they start doing things. They make comic books. They make movies, right? They make microtransactions. They have special events all the time, right? That you have to pay to participate in. That's the reason why they do this, right? If ecosystems are still a little bit confusing to you, note they are everywhere in real life. And here's a real life example. We talked a little bit about Disney World and Disneyland and theme parks in the first lecture of this course. The question here, why would you spend all the money building something like Space Mountain in a super expensive ride in your park that is free to go on? It's totally free to go on. You pay money to get into the park, and then you go and you ride Space Mountain as much as you want. Space Mountain is super expensive, and it brings in exactly as much money as the super cheap teacup ride that probably took a few months to build and, is in every park under the sun. Well, the reason is this. The big rides are not there to make money. They are there to bring people into the park, to bring people into the ecosystem. Because once they're there, you want food? Hey, $10 for the big turkey dog, okay? The big turkey on a stick, right? You want to sleep over the night? Hey, you got to use the nearby hotel, right? So merchandising. Why does every single cool ride end with a gift shop? It's because that is where all the money is made, okay? It's the ecosystem, those periphery things, the gift shop, the expensive food, the hotels, the special experiences. Those are the things that make money once people are in the ecosystem. The big flashy things, the rides that make the news headlines, those are the things that get people into the ecosystem and then allow the rest to do the work, okay? So that's why ecosystems are everywhere right now. It's why if you talk to any startup, if you talk to any venture capitalist, because you're about to ask them for money, then they want to hear about platforms. They don't want to hear that you're making an app. They want to hear that you're making a platform that's going to grow and develop and find many different ways to help people and make money from doing so. Okay? So anyway, ecosystem maps, they're extremely important. They're everywhere these days. You don't have to like them, but they are very impactful, so you do need to know about them. Okay? Value chains, right? We talked about ecosystem maps. Now let's talk about a chain of value and how value and money flows through a system. Let's say that you've got little Timmy here. Timmy is a student at the University of Michigan, an engineer. So he's always on North Campus, and he gets hungry. So he's going to take this $9 and he's going to take it to Panda. Okay, Panda takes that $9. But doesn't keep it, okay? And that's the important part. Panda gets $9, but doesn't get to keep all that much of it because Panda has to spend money to do their job. They have to spend $2 on transport, let's say, and let's say they have to spend $5 to pay their employees to service this customer, okay? Now, this transit company doesn't keep those $2 either, right? It's a chain. So that transit company takes that $2 and then gives $1 to the farmer, maybe, the company that supplies all this stuff to be transported, okay? This is a value chain, and if you look closely, you'll see that Panda actually takes, we'll come back here, takes about $2, okay? They take in $9, they have to spend 7 of it to get that 9, so they get to keep $2. Now, let's say that $2 really isn't enough, okay? Panda looks at their finances and says $2 just isn't going to be enough, because KFC just created their own game studio, and we need to compete with that. And game studios are very expensive. So what we're going to do, we want to keep more of this $9 that comes in. So we're going to do a buyout. We're going to buy out part of this chain. We're going to buy out the trucking company. We're going to buy out the farm. And now it's probably not $0 we need to spend on those things, but we can spend less, okay? We can cut out their margins, and we can maybe be more efficient. Now, in this scenario, which is hypothetical, that $9 comes in, but only $5 goes out. We've gone from keeping $2 to keeping $4 with this new iteration of the chain, okay? So now you have $4 that we pocket. Let's take this back to games. Let's consider, you're an indie small team and you make a really great game, okay? And you want to sell it in GameStop, okay? Here comes the money. So let's say that Timmy here has $60 and wants to buy your game. Let's say that he goes through GameStop, okay? Goes to the store. Well, that store needs to actually have your game. And in order for that store to have your game, it has to pay some money. You're way over here, by the way. We'll get to you eventually. GameStop, let's say, has to pay about $45 to the maintainer, right? The shipper, the people in the background who are getting these games manufactured and printed and stored and delivered, okay? But they need an actual game to store and manufacture. So they pay $30 to Sony. Sony is the console holder, after all. They have the power, and they can prevent your game from being on their console at all if they want. They charge a fee to let you put your game on the console. So they take their cut. By the time this $60 goes from Timmy's hands to you, it's really more about $15. In other words, it's kind of depressing. You keep about 25% of your true value of what you've created. And that's really hard. That's a pain in the butt. Let's say that you want to keep more than 25%. Well, there are other routes. Timmy could, buy your game not through GameStop, but through a digital platform like Steam. That $60 goes to Valve Corporation, and Valve gives you a much nicer cut. Valve actually gives you like 70% IRL, and if you're a big company whose business they really value, they'll give you an even better deal. But let's say that, this time you get to keep, 3/4 of the value. Like, that's way better. That is 3 times better. In other words, to get the same amount of money, you have to sell 1/3 of the copies as you used to. And because selling games is so tough, this is a really important thing for you, okay? Now, let's say that this isn't enough because you are EA, okay? And you want to keep the entire thing, all right? Aside from maybe like credit card processing companies taking 1 or 2%. So what can you do? Well, if you're EA and you have a lot of resources, what you can do is you can create your own platform, right? That you control. Like Origin down here. If Timmy hands $60 to Origin, Origin is you, so you don't take any money away from you. That money flows to you and you get to keep it all. What's more is that if other companies decide that going through your part of the value chain is the best idea for them, then you get to keep even more of that flowing value, okay? And that's super, super, super impactful for you and your business. This happens all the time, by the way. People will pay a lot of money to get certain value flowing through their part of the chain or into their ecosystem. Unfortunately, in 2020, Capcom was hacked. Capcom, the famous Japanese game creator. And as part of that hack, we learned about some deals that they've made with Google. So Google paid Capcom $10 million to put Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 on their Stadia cloud streaming platform. Sony paid $5 million for Resident Evil 7 timed exclusivity with their DLC and stuff like that. So in other words, like, yeah, companies like EA that are platform holders, companies like Valve even, probably not Valve too much, they'll pay big bucks to send the right to make sure that customers go through their part of the chain to get to your product, okay? So some questions that have been very, very interesting lately. This one in particular, what happened to GameStop. I'm not talking about the crazy short squeeze that happened in the last like 3 or 4 months. I'm talking about why are they having a hard time doing business these days. Well, let's talk a little bit about, we'll talk about GameStop in a sec. I want to talk about Stadia and Google first, okay? Currently, the ecosystem for consoles is this. If Timmy here, if anyone wants to play console games, and because the first-party games tend to be some of the best games out there, yeah, you want to play those games. What you have to do is you have to spend $300 to $500 to get a console and then $60 per game. This gets you into ecosystems controlled by one of the big 3 console players, okay? Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony. Then that money, which flows to them, flows out to the developers, $15 to $20 to these different developers, okay? Now imagine that this is a route through this chain that's expensive for the user, and it's not super lucrative for the developers. Imagine if one day a new path through the chain came and it squeezed out these console players. Imagine a chain like this, where Timmy spends no money buying a console, and they just spend that $60 per game. Of course, this player would be someone like Stadia, a cloud provider, right? There's no console you need to buy with cloud gaming. You just play the game in your browser. That's it. You're done, right? And then what happens there? Well, $60 gets passed through. Is Stadia able to give $45 instead of $30, right? Because, well, I don't know. Google's a very wealthy company. And they don't have the same expensive ecosystem to maintain. Well, maybe more publishers decide that this route through the chain is ideal, and maybe more consumers start to go through this route in the chain because it's way cheaper. You don't have to, in order to get to the games you want to play, you don't have to spend $300 like this route through the chain, like you used to. It's a lot cheaper for them. What happens if this route through the chain under here becomes the dominant route? This route starts to wither away, okay? And that's really bad. Companies do not want to get caught on the wrong route on a value chain, okay? They will get pruned and then they will go bankrupt. So they're getting really nervous. The reason you know this is because there are tons of partnerships happening all the time. As soon as Stadia comes out and proves that the technology is viable, Microsoft announces xCloud, right? And okay, we got to have a streaming service. We have to compete, or there's a risk we're going to get taken out here. You start to see crazy things happen, like Microsoft and Sony teaming up to create their own cloud services. That's crazy. They are truly afraid of this new route, and they want to head it off. Now, Google is struggling with Stadia, right? They're struggling. The technology is incredible, But the technology isn't what tends to make a video game ecosystem all that interesting. It's the games. Okay, Google has no first-party games that people need to play, and so and their competitors have the technology that they have, so they're in big trouble. But anyway, this is the main players seeing that a risk to them exists because of the value chain, making some very aggressive moves to prevent that, and then it looks like they've succeeded. So good on them. GameStop has been struggling a lot lately because the opposite happened. They got squeezed out, okay? Like a lot of retailers, traditional retailers, Amazon showed up and proved that the value they provide to consumers really isn't that valuable, okay? GameStop, where you go to physical stores to buy physical copies of digital games. These days, most games you just buy online if you want to. You can go get a copy if you want to, and some people do that, but it's decreasing all the time. So they found themselves being squeezed out of a value chain. Okay? Blockbuster is the famous case for this happening. There's one Blockbuster left. They used to be an enormous, 85,000 person company not that long ago, just in the late 80s. So the problem is where they were in the value chain, they allowed consumers to rent out and try games, okay? They're a rental chain. So what they would do is they would buy one copy of a game and then rent that copy out to 1,000 different people. They got to keep all the money for that, and the developers only got the purchase value of one copy. What does this mean? Well, when you set up a business model like this, it means that the creators of the games and media and movies, they hate your guts, okay? And they want to do anything in their power to squeeze you out of the value chain, and they have. So what happened? Well, Blockbuster allows you to go and get physical copies of a movie, but that's a pain in the butt. You have to drive there, and you only get to keep it for a short amount of time. So what happens? Netflix showed up. Netflix showed up and proved that what Blockbuster provides is not very valuable at all, okay? Suddenly, you have creators of the content that people want just sending their content directly to consumers, or maybe through a digital, efficient third party like Netflix. And suddenly, there's really no point in Blockbuster. There's a new route through the value chain that's more efficient, it's more consumer friendly, people love to use it, the producers of the content love it when people use it, and as a result, Blockbuster went belly up very, very fast, okay? So anyway, Blockbuster was cut from the chain, and they didn't make any moves to kind of move to a new part of the chain or provide a different kind of value, and as a result, they just dried up on the vine. So this is the exact opposite of what Sony and Microsoft were doing when they announced, oh, Google is trying to squeeze us out of our value chain. We're going to do what Google is doing and do it way better. And they did, right? And so now Google is getting squeezed out of the value chain that they created. It's not very surprising, to be honest with you. Google has not been on fire lately. Okay, so the questions that you might have, right, when businesses do weird things, right? Why are loot boxes here? Why are they so omnipresent? Why did Electronic Arts create Origin, right, when Steam is perfectly fine? Why is GameStop having like an existential crisis right now, aside from the weird short squeeze? Well, these questions can all be answered really intuitively and very quickly using ecosystem maps and value chains, okay? And I encourage you, when a company does a weird thing, think about, does this affect their ecosystem? Does this help them build an ecosystem? Or does this help cement their position in the value chain? Does this prevent them from getting disrupted in the future? And I think you'll find that these two tools answer a lot of interesting questions about how businesses work. You don't have to like any of this, but these big organizations have a huge impact on our lives and on the future. And so it helps us to understand some of these decisions and how they're made, okay? Okay, if you are really interested in this stuff, if you find this topic fascinating like I do, there's a really good YouTube channel. It's called Company Man that puts out very regular content, diving deep, investigating, what happened to Chuck E. Cheese, which might be a big, thing from your childhood. It was a big thing from mine. Why is ESPN struggling right now? What have they been trying to do to fix it? And a lot of stuff like that, okay? So anyway, I encourage you to explore these topics and have some fun, okay? Otherwise, that's pretty much it for the day. We ended slightly early, But what we're going to do is I think we might not get to the AI lecture this semester. If you go onto our YouTube channel where all of our other lectures are posted, what you'll find is that you can find the AI lecture from our last semester, which our last semester had one more lecture day in it than we do this semester. So anyway, you can go watch it there. It should still be perfectly relevant and fine. And on Monday, what we're going to do is we're going to come together. We'll watch all of your final trailers. We'll clap for you. And we'll talk about the showcase, how it's going to work. And then we'll do a final lecture. Okay? Thank you so much, team. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes. I'll turn some music on. If you have any questions, be sure you ask them. Otherwise, we wish you good luck on this final week. Okay? Polish up your game, fix technical issues. But focus mainly on, okay, how do we market this? How do we make this game pop and get people interested to play it, not only at the showcase, but also around the internet in general? Thank you so much, team. We will see you next time. Let's listen to some Banjo-Kazooie. Oh, interesting. I barely remember it. Isn't it just a very intense version of Grunty's Lair? So what you're really saying is Grunty's Lair is a very memorable piece of music, and I totally agree. Okay, so it's kind of a medley. So this is the very end. This is the very, very end of a course lecture, and this is actually the second time we've done this lecture today. So yeah, you can watch. You can check our video broadcast history if you want to watch the other lectures, or watch this entire one from beginning to end. They're about 2 hours long. I like how Grunty's Lair has a new version using the instrumentation and tone of each area. So when you run near a painting or an entrance, it changes to the feeling of that location. It's really neat. That's the kind of stuff you can get when you have a dedicated musician who just thinks about music and how to really make things great all day. I wish I had the funds to hire a full-time musician. It's so music is so important, but it is not the kind of thing that you can market on an itch.io or Steam page. You can sort of market it if someone clicks to play the trailer, but that's kind of it. Visuals are extraordinarily important, as is character design and other stuff, and just the general concept. Yeah, that's a good point, right? Someone who is very practiced in music as well as engineering is really nice. And if you've got a startup or a small team, then that's kind of what you need to shoot for. Because like you just can't, once the musician runs out of music to make and your engineering team is still like 2 months behind, then that's really bad news for your company's finances. Okay, team. All right, I'm headed out. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you good luck on this week's work, and we will see you on Monday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.